Hey, welcome back to our podcast, Unconventionally Systemic. So I'm joined, as always, by fabulous Fazana, magnificent Mariam, and luscious Lola. That's what I'm going with
Mm.
today. We aren't all together
And
today.
amazing Megan.
Oh, thank
Don't
you.
forget
Thank you very
yourself,
much. Thank you
Monty.
very much.
Thanks, ma'am.
So
Sorry, you always remember someone else did that the other time. I think it was me, and you were like, you actually pointed it out. I think it was you and your Marion. Oh my God, one of the M's. So yeah, thanks, guys.
one of the M's. So we aren't together face to face, but we are here kind of all together virtually. And I suppose we wanted to acknowledge today in this episode, just kind of tying up what we've talked about in this series and thinking a little bit about our next steps going forward. So yeah, we just wanted to have a little space to reflect on the last few episodes. Yeah, and I don't know if any of you wanted to jump in and think about, yeah, what the last few episodes have meant for you, or whether they've shifted anything for you in terms of the ways that you've been thinking or the ways you've been navigating workspaces. I'm really thinking in mind about the kind of last episode where we spoke kind of particularly around kind of unconscious bias and racial profiling in work contexts and in life contexts in general. Yeah, open the floor.
I thought you were going to say something there, Fazana. I was waiting for it. Looked in deep thought. Hmm.
I mean, I was just thinking about how much we've spoken about in the span of 3 episodes. I think we've actually covered quite a bit in terms of our experiences and how things have been going. And I know that we're sort of in different stages of post-qualifying. But yeah, no, I was just to acknowledge and I actually acknowledging the most recent episode, which was actually quite intense. I don't know how it was like for everyone else, but yeah, I think we touched on really kind of sensitive things. And just being able to sort of do that after taking a year and a half's break and then just being back and be like, yep, going back to this. And just how relevant it continues to stay and just how frustrating and angry it continues to be for us as professionals, as personal personalities. I don't even know how I'm trying to word this, as individuals. Yeah, that's just my 2 pence, and as Megan was kind of covering what
That's
we've
so
done.
interesting, actually, because I was thinking, but it's very on brand for us. Because I guess these things don't take a break, sadly. So we almost don't as well, even when we do take a physical break. I think something that we also talked about is that we're still having conversations off recording, off camera, whether it's in our group chat when we see each other or even, on a one-to-one sort of basis, these conversations do come in, even if it starts off on a personal note about how we're getting on with either work, life, whatever it is. We almost always end up coming back to some of these things that I guess we are hopeful that things will change. The more we think about it, the more we talk about it. But yeah, I guess for me, I'm a bit like, oh, it's interesting having that conversation because I've not still been back to work since last year. So then I almost feel like a fraud because I'm just like, do you know what? I don't even know. I could go back to work, which I'm going back very soon. And if we were to record this episodes again, I might have a different perspective or something. I might talk about things differently or see things differently. But yeah.
I guess I was hoping to jump in there and say, Lola, you're definitely not a fraud. So just But I get the sense in that, yeah, even if we're talking about this kind of the day after we recorded, I think the conversation would be different in terms of the context of time and things being ever changing. However, I guess for me, there is something really kind of quite in depth about some of these issues that keep happening, and something you said, Lola, around hope, and kind of something kind of this platform offers in being unapologetically kind of open about some of these things, or about all of these things that otherwise in a lot of spaces we don't get to, we don't get to talk about, we don't get to kind of voice that outside of, and I want to say outside of safe circles, because this is a safe circle for us, and us putting this out there is really trying to encourage people to have these uneasy, uncomfortable conversations, because they're very purposeful. And it's not about comfort anymore, because these things are really significant and traumatize people on a day-to-day basis. And, leading into kind of something that we're going to be thinking about a lot more in future kind of season, around the social justice and the political elements of the world and what's happening in the world, and how that impacts us as systemic people, and also how that links to us in terms of our role and how we use ourselves politically or not politically in our work, or in the way how we are and how we move around the world. So for me, it's kind of sad that it is still topical, but yeah, it is. It's important, but also us opening up this voice is giving permission to people going through these things silently to say something. I don't know if anyone wants to talk about kind of some of the feedback that we've had of some of the episodes that we've had as well.
I have to agree, and actually even more so, man, what you just said, even if it's not to also talk, but also to feel heard and seen. And I think that ties in nicely with what you just said about the feedback we've got. We've got some really nice feedback, and it's made me emotional, but I feel like I'm in my emotional era. And a little thing could just set me off. Honestly, I could be laughing 1 minute and literally the tears could be rolling, but no. And I think actually, again, like when we did this, yes, we had different people in mind, but I think it's been really pertinent hearing people on the same journey that we've been on, or we're still on, or we're coming out of, actually reach out to us. And one of them was about, someone from the Midlands. We're down south. Is it down? We're down south because that's up north. Yeah, that's it. I wasn't born in this country, guys, so yeah. But anyway, so yeah, someone in the Midlands sort of sharing that actually it's been very, I can't remember the exact words that they use, and I might go and look in a minute while someone else speaks in a sec. But that the fact that they're on this course up there, and even for them, there isn't many people that also look like them on the course, and it's been helpful to hear our voices, even though we're in a different phase to them, because we've walked that journey. And every course is different, by the way, even though it's still systemic or family therapy. It's obviously taught differently from from institution to institution, but there was still that commonality that she could find with us in terms of actually, some of the things that we've navigated. And I think for me, just hearing that, and also like for them to also see that actually they can't get to the other. So that's one thing that they said, that they're about to finish, I think this summer or next year, might be this summer. And sometimes it's really tough. We're hearing people that look like them, haven't been through it, and are come out the other side, kind of gave them hope. Again, this thing of hope's command. That to me was like, if it's for that one person, it's enough. Does that make sense? So yeah, it was really encouraging to just get that feedback that we're not just, I mean, even if we were just pointing out that nobody was listening, that's also okay, because we enjoy each other's company, whether it's in person or in an aligned space like this, so we don't mind, but it was nice, I have to say, to also hear that actually it is making a difference, even if it's to one person. So yeah, I don't know what's like for you guys as well.
Yeah.
I feel like you're gonna say something. Go on.
Oh, do you know, I was just, because I think even when you were talking, Miriam, about actually this being a really safe space, and actually kind of reconnected me, because sometimes I think we, you know, we all live very rich lives, and so we're all pulled in so many different directions, and it can be really hard for us to prioritize coming together. But this space has been so valuable to me, and just in being able to connect, because of how intensely polarizing it feels like the world has become of late. And so having a space where we can kind of share and connect with people who, we don't all share the same opinion at all, but I think connecting with people in a way that you feel safe and you feel heard and you feel like you aren't being kind of your views aren't minimized to make other people feel comfortable. That's been really helpful and really enriching. And so it took a really big leap for me personally to sign up to come on be on the podcast, because I think it's one thing to have this safe space for us, but then to put it out to other people, it's really huge, because there's a real level of vulnerability and pressure. And so having that kind of feedback, that is just, it feels really magical, because it feels like a moment where I didn't really have expectations of anybody listening or watching now. But to have people listening and watching who are then able to connect to the fact that there's a space where they feel like some of their views are echoed somewhere else, or some of their experiences are echoed somewhere else, has been really, really, what's the word? It's just meant an awful lot to me.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, based on what you were saying, Megan, there was sometimes when we go into these kind of episodes and we're so involved in our conversations, I often forget that this is being recorded and this is being kind of publicized. And I think it gives me a bit of anxiety, if I'm honest. And I completely agree with you about the commitment. Because something I've been thinking a lot about is sort of censorship. And I've been thinking about it, especially with everything that's going on, the kind of global climate we're in at the moment. I'm just thinking about work contexts. I'm thinking about social contexts. And I really think there has been times, and there has been kind of certain areas where I do feel like I've been sort of censored, or I've had to kind of take a step back. And I think in these spaces, and I think this is because of kind of the individual relationships I have with you all and the space that we've created, I feel sometimes able to just get really comfortable and talk. And then I get the anxiety of, oh, but this is going to be publicized. Oh, what if someone from so-and-so sees it? Oh, no, what's going to happen to, how are they going to position me based on maybe my views on certain things? Or, yeah, so that can be quite a scary thought. So I think when we do get feedback, like you mentioned, Lola, it's really nice, because it kind of puts me back to why I've chosen to kind of do this, which is, it's not just about sort of raising awareness. I think there's a lot of awareness, but it's also about connecting with other kind of practitioners and being able to kind of relay, and in some ways kind of feel validated as well. Because what you were sharing, Lola, from the individual that kind of shared that feedback, I felt like that in periods in my training where it kind of felt like I was marginalized. So it's unfortunate, but it's quite validating to also know, it wasn't in my head. Like, that is actually real experiences that people do have in these types of trainings. Yeah.
So just quickly, funny enough, those were their words, relatable and validated. So I'm glad I forgot, because when I read it, I was thinking, funny enough, that's how I'm feeling, actually, knowing that somebody else was able to relate and feel validated. I don't know if that makes sense. And then obviously you then said that, Fazan, and I'm like, yeah, because that's literally their words. So I think it's a full circle, isn't it? They're listening, feeling validated and relating to us, but actually hearing from them, it's also making us feel validated, and that, yes, there's other people that can relate to us, and we're not just this random four women with this experience and nobody else has it. Like, no, actually, you know, someone else in a different part of the country is able to relate to this. I don't know if that makes sense. And sometimes I think, I don't know about you, but I sometimes think, oh, what is our place? And I'm like, are we doing what we set out to do? I sometimes overthink, you know, what we do and how we're putting ourselves out there. And maybe comparison comes into it. I just start to think, oh, maybe we're not as therapy, and I'm like, actually we're unconventional for a reason. Like we went with this name because we wanted to be different. We didn't want to be, I'm not saying that there's anything bad with the other ones, but I guess it's about us wanting, you know, to bring something to this space that maybe other people haven't been able to. And actually beyond that, my hope is that even podcasts, whether it's in the psychology field or whatever other field professionally, even if it's social care or you know, nurse or whatever it is, if they do hear this, maybe even encourage them to also do some of this. And if they're thinking about it but don't know how to, just do it. Does that make sense? Like, feel the fear and do it anyway. I don't know where that saying is from. It's not me, so don't quote me. But yes, I think for me, yeah, no, it's just been, yeah, it's been nice.
I was going to say something about, oh, sorry.
No, go on.
I was going to say something about how that links to, again, like something that we want to bring back to future conversations on here. And I, you know, just to link with what you, Megan, and Fazana were saying about kind of their decision of joining these conversations or this being publicized. Sometimes I don't realize it. I don't realize the public element of it until I say to someone, actually, I'm part of a platform where we talk about some of these things. Maybe you should go and listen. And I sent them the link. And then I think, ooh, but we work together. What are you going to think of me? Ooh, I'm not sure what this person's going to think, but then I'll share it anyway. So I really, yeah, that's real. I really empathize with that, and I really do feel that as well. And I guess for me, like, there's some people who don't give feedback on the you know, on the platform thing about the podcast, but some people that have said to me about, especially in the educational institutions kind of context or on terms of systemic training, how these things are still happening, these things continue to happen, and it feels really isolating for like, you know, someone spoke to me about their experience. Actually, it was a couple of people, and one of the people actually decided not to continue, which was so sad. They were doing the foundation and intermediate. They decided, actually, either I'm not going to continue with that particular institution, I'll go somewhere else, or I'll just give up altogether and just take a pause on the systemic training. And it kind of hit me because I was thinking about, obviously, a lot comes into that conversation, and it, you know, that might not be the only thing, but also if on so many levels things are still really intensely difficult in terms of difference and how people are feeling in terms of the course with their own with, you know, issues of race or being a person of global majority, and that having an impact on them to an extent where they either kind of feeling like they need to either pause the course or change institutions or move or give up altogether. I think for me, it gave me a real drive to continue with these conversations, but also it made me want to talk more about certain things that we probably haven't spoken about, that I'll probably talk about in terms of you know, our relationships with people on the course, whether that's colleagues, whether people, you know, the institution sometimes is separate from the people who are lecturing or supervising, but they're all part of the institution. But sometimes, you know, things are, you know, are quite different, or things are experienced differently. So it is a conversation that I hope we can come back to at some point in the coming seasons that we talk about.
I think that really lends itself nicely, actually, and it's very, very close to what I was going to say, Mariam, about what we want to go into in the next season, which is around ideas around social justice. And it feels like what you were just touching on is that idea that we've all spoken about outside of this space and now are trying our hardest to bring it into the space, is the politics, and how, I'm trying to choose my words really carefully here, but how sometimes it can feel like psychology, mental health, the field tries to separate itself from politics, which I think we all have very strong views about in one way or another. And actually, this idea of the political sphere is within everything. And I think how we navigate that in workspaces where people, or in educational settings, or in our everyday lives, how we come up against it when people deny the politics or are framing things as apolitical, how we navigate that. I keep saying the word navigate, but how we kind of interact with that.
Yeah, and I agree. I think as you're speaking, I was thinking there's definitely intersectionality between these different institutes, whether it's mental health or health in general, and politics and education, and even family. Does that make sense? They all interact on some level in different ways, and in different seasons, and they look different. And yeah, I think, of course, people don't have to agree, but no matter how you choose to position yourself, you are still actively part of those systems. Did you know what I mean? Even in the silence, that's still saying something, and even in the vocalness, that's saying something. So I guess, and I know not everybody realizes it, but I think it's important to realize, and it's up. And when you do realize it, then how do you want to then position yourself? How do you want to present yourself when it comes to these things? And I think even something that, we even spoke before we started recording, was about the fact that even if we want to not be involved, some of the clients and the families that we see, we're faced with it. It's the reality. Does that make sense? So sometimes we have to then name these things, or actually make sense of these things, even in the therapeutics, as a therapeutic setting. So I think it's important that it's talked about. People are able to realize that, unfortunately, well, actually fortunately, you can't always get away from these things. So it's good to to definitely think about it and reflect on it, so that when you are faced with it in different context, hopefully you're able to name and have these difficult but important conversations.
Yeah, not shying away from it. And that's something we want to do in the next series, is really think about how that permeates every aspect of our work and our private social lives, thinking about issues around social justice. And I suppose one of the big kind of shifts for us in the next season will be around inviting guests into the space as well. So having people coming in who maybe have different who will have different positions, different perspectives, and hopefully continuing with the safe space and being able to open it up just to some different voices. I'm sure you're not sick of all of us, but it's always nice to have some fresh angle.
We've got
yeah. I don't know if anybody had anything else they wanted to say as we're coming to the end of this kind of summarizing episode.
Just to quickly add, going back to the feedback, and we also got other feedback around what people will find helpful to hear, especially some people that are also training, having more in the more intermediate level, which was really nice. And I was like, they really took us seriously. The person gave like loads of suggestions. I was like, girl, we could do 2 seasons.
Oh, okay.
These suggestions. But again, I think it's just the kind of just that one technology, if they are listening, that we've heard, and even if it's not the next season, we're definitely holding it in mind. But also just goes to show like there is a drought when it comes to some of these things, that people are looking, to people like us, to help make sense of the journey that they're on. And I guess it then made me feel good, because I think part of why we also did it was because we were like, we wish we had people that had gone before us share their experience. that we knew what we're walking into. I don't know about you guys, but I was probably a bit naive as to what I expected. And, you know, I'm a massive advocate for systemic training, but nothing's perfect, is it really? Let's be honest. Even if it's still my preferred modality, there are still things that we can talk about. So yeah, just to say, yeah, there's that to say. Even if it doesn't come next, we definitely saw, I know we've responded anyway, but just to kind of acknowledge it as well here that, you know, we definitely are seeing it all, and yeah, we'll definitely get to it. And I'm excited for the next season as well.
I guess a final note from me is that keep the respectful feedback coming. So we do like to hear it. And I say respectful for a reason, because, you know, we're not here to disrespectful in any way. So yeah, keep the feedback coming, so that will be helpful. So thank you for listening, joining us. And I'm summarizing, as in ending, as in signing out, powwowing out, not knowing if anyone else had something to kind of say before we say bye to you and see you the next season.
I just have one last thing to say, and that is the email address for people to give us feedback from.
Go ahead.
We were just talking before we hit record about memory, and I feel like I could do like hours of episodes on memory, partly because I won't remember what I've already said, but so I'm going to channel everything to try and remember our email address. It's unconventionally systemic, all one word, at outlook.com. Yeah.
You did it.
My memory's
So,
okay,
and just
guys.
add a little tiny final bit is that we don't know when we're coming back yet. It's not that we're going to go in for ages, but just to bear with us, just because people are like, oh, you know, they put this out and then I don't know, 2 months later. So just to say that we will definitely be coming back, regardless of how long it takes us. And yeah, just watch this space is what I would say. And if you're missing us, listen to the old episodes, definitely, and keep sending in the feedback. But yeah, and it's been nice being back. I think I'm really glad we came back and didn't think, oh my gosh, we've been gone for so long, we can never come back. It's been nice and I'm excited. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.